Mark Rosewater, it is time for Companion to become broken again. I have made the greatest CEDH deck of all time. It can't really do anything for like the first 5 turns, but the combination of Golos and Gigantha is truly pretty okay. So this is a deck tech of my Golos in Gigantha deck, and Gigantha's companion stipulation of no card in your starting deck can have more than one of the same mana symbol. Its mana cost is actually fairly easy to build around. And yeah, so when Ikoria came out, I changed up my Golos deck a little bit to make it so that I could have Gigantha be the companion, and with the rules change, it became a lot worse, but it still is a pretty good deck. So first off, I have ramp inside, a lot of ramp inside of here. So I have Arcane Signet, Soul Ring, Talisman of Curiosity, Talisman of Impulse, Talisman of Hierarchy, Coalition Relic, and Mana Crypt is my mana rocks. Which Mana Crypt, I'm not very rich, but I was lucky enough to pull this from a mystery booster pack. So, yay me! And then for more traditional land ramp, have Circuitous Route, which, as you'll see, there's a lot of gates in here. Farseek, and then for creature-based ramp, I have Radha, Heart of Keld, Faber Welder, Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath, which both ramps and draws cards, and it trolls the standard players a little bit. Dryad of the Elysian Grove. And then I actually have some ramp that's a little bit different, with Ghostly Flicker, Soul Herder, and Ephemerate, which they're effectively ramp in this deck since I can use them to blink Golos. And then with Golos' ETB ability, I search my library for a land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle my library. So very, very good stuff. Yeah, so blink effects are basically ramp in this deck. And then next up is card draw. So I have Omnath, Locus of the Royal, which this definitely is not Elemental Tribal, but the basically landfall trigger is really good. And then Faithless Looting, just good 1 mana card, has flashback. Wheel of Fate, which, as you'll see later, I have a lot of cards with Cascade in this deck, so I can occasionally cast this without suspending it. Brainstorm, which is good, because it allows me to, in the early game, just get some different cards. And then later, it allows me to put very expensive cards on top of my deck to cheat out with Golos' ability. Mr. Cremora, Magus of the Bazaar, which I actually included this over a little bit more traditional looter because obviously it's supposed to be an homage to Bazaar of Baghdad, so can't really see it right now, but there now. Draw 2 cards, which then discard 3 cards, which I have a handful of ways to reanimate big creatures, so now I have to discard more. It still is pretty good. Idyllic Tutor, because just have some pretty good enchantments in this deck. Scheming Symmetry, since can't really afford Vampiric Tutor, so I have the worst version of it. Mystical Tutor. And then Obsessive Stitcher, which this is a little different because it can both loot and it can reanimate things, so very, very good card. And then Haunted Crossroads to put big creatures from my graveyard back on top of my deck and then cheat them out with Golos' ability. Then Reclaim to put them back on top of my deck and then cheat them with Golos. Then what do I have next for removal? I have Angelic Ascension, takes care of both creatures and planeswalkers. Bituminous Blast, which I have a fairly big Cascade theme in this deck, because if I get a Cascade card with Golos, I get both the Cascade card and a free extra card from somewhere in my deck at random. And this also kills a lot of commanders, since a lot of commanders are small and cheap these days. Well, I mean, started playing Magic only a few months ago, but I mean, it seems like before the commanders were a little bigger, a little slower. On thin ice, where I run a handful of snow lands in here, so it's just good removal, basically no downside. And that's enchantment, and that I have to have some specific lands out. Yeah, so it can get destroyed as an enchantment, and they get the creature back then, but still very, very good. Swords to Plowshares, absolute classic card. Crackling Doom, which, even though it's technically an edict effect, still gets it, as it were, it forces them to sacrifice a creature with greatest power among creatures they control. So yeah, so this can destroy a lot of big things, and it can get around obnoxious keywords like indestructible, hexproof, stuff like that. Settle Beyond Reality, which, even though it's fairly expensively costed for an exile effect, I also get to blink Golos, so I get a free land out of it. Evoke Existence, just flexible, destroys both artifacts and Deny Reality, which is basically just boomerang type of bounce effect, but it has cascades, pretty good. And then next, what is some more mass removal? So I have Curse of the Cabal, which is a... Yeah, you can't really see the there now. So it's a fairly obscure card, but it's pretty good inside this deck, because I can pay... Like the 10, I don't have to pay that with Golos' Activate ability that forces a player to sacrifice half the permanents they control. Which, sadly, it doesn't do it to all the opponents, but still, I can just fire this at whoever has like the biggest board state at the table. Then I immediately get targeted by the rest of the... And it also has Suspend too, which, as it were, your opponents can sacrifice stuff to put more time counters on it. But it's still a solid choice to suspend, because it'll probably take a few things with it. Urza's Ruinous Blast, just fairly standard board wipe that exiles everything that isn't legendary. So let's Golos live, let's Jegantha live. And then Solar Blaze, mostly just put it in here so that Golos can live. Like, I actually got the idea of using this as a good board wipe from the Mitch from the Command Zone's Golos deck tech. He pointed out this is a board wipe that lets Golos live, so pretty good. Next up, I have a few more defensive cards. Giver of Ruins, to give something a creature that I have protection from a color. Sire of Insanity, which is actually really good in this deck, because I don't really need a hand that much. Like, I mean, like, I still do kind of need a hand, but it hurts my opponents more if they don't have a hand, because if I don't have a hand, I just do Golos' Activate ability to get random cards off the top of my deck. Yeah, so that everybody else has to discard their hands, and then stuff. Then Realm Razor. Yeah, I just cannot focus on this. Yeah, so basically this is kind of fixed Armageddon on a stick, which I know Armageddon kind of breaks the social contract, but it isn't where you can't. If it leaves play, I return all the lands that were destroyed into play. So yeah, so somebody can kill this, and if I want my lands back, then I can just kill it. Next, God Pharaoh's Statue. Kind of a stacks piece, because it taxes everybody else's spells, but, you know, sometimes I just like to be a little mean. Then Propaganda, basically staple card, and the weird old art of the one guy, I don't know the lore. Let's see, Volrath, yeah, that's his name. Yeah, he's shaking his finger at Karn. Yeah, it's a little little weird, kind of funny looking. Then next, how do I win? So first off, I have both Blackblade Reforged, the really cool version of it from the signature spellbook Gideon, looks really awesome, and Glaive of the Guild Pact, Glaive of the Guild Pact, which basically allows me to, I can suit up Golos with these and then basically just play Voltron if I want to, and kill them with commander damage. Next, another way that I have to win is just through Swarm Intelligence. Yeah, so it copies all my instants and sorcery spells, so very, very, very good card. Like, for instance, if I have Curse of the Cabal, I can destroy 2 players' boards, so very good. Next, I have a handful of big creatures. Yeah, so can't really afford any like the super expensive Eldrazi, so I just have to go with some of the cheaper Eldrazi, like Pathrazer of Ulamog, which is very evasive, has Annihilator 3, and then quote-unquote Super Menace. Scuttling Doom Engine, which has kind of a wonky evasion, and then when it dies, it damages something. Siege Rhino, the meme, the circle jerk, the funny, the boogeyman from Khans of Tarkir, the standard or whatever. I don't know. I didn't play it then. Yeah. Deals damage, and I have a lot of blink effects in this deck, so if I decide I have enough lands, now I quit blinking Golos, and I can start blinking this and stealing everybody's life. Artisan of Kozilek, another Eldrazi with big body, and you get a reanimation when it's the battlefield. Gate Colossus, which I run the entire set of gates in this deck, yes. Could potentially play it for free. Desolation Twin, which, even though there's no evasion, it's 20/20 worth of stats for 10 mana, and maybe cast it at a reduced price from Golos. And then Hamlet-Back Goliath, very, very underrated card, even though it has no evasion. It has it where whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you may put X 1/1 counters on Hamlet-Back Goliath, where X is that creature's power, so it adds up very quickly. This becomes a 50/50 or whatever if it isn't removed very fast. And then I run a very large number of cards with Cascade, which Maelstrom Archangel doesn't have true Cascade, but it lets me cast stuff for free whenever it deals combat. Maelstrom Nexus, which gives all the first spell I play, or cast. This is errated to say cast. It's the mystery booster printing, so it has original wording. And I'm pretty sure the Cascade stacks, so if I cast a spell with Cascade as my first spell for turn, I get to Cascade twice. And a few creatures with Cascade, Ethereum Horn Sorcerer, Enigma Sphinx, first Sliver, which I actually felt like building Sliver Tribal yet, so it's just in here. Enlisted Worm, and then Violent Outburst, which Violent Outburst is actually an instant, but still it's kind of. And then Crashing Footfalls, which I just can potentially, like Wheel of Fate, cast this for free with without suspending it off of a Cascade card. So yeah, so it's good with Cascade. Time Sieve, which is just a time walk type effect where it's for the original price, but of the original time walk from Alpha, but sacrifice 5 artifacts. Yeah, I can't zoom in on this right now. Yeah, this isn't working. Yeah, so sacrifice 5 artifacts, take an extra turn. I'm not zooming out. I can't get to zoom in. Yeah, just my camera isn't working at all. Yeah, sacrifice it, control target players next turn. Very good. Very, very powerful. Mimic Vat, which I've never actually really like tried this card out with it working really. Like, I mean, like it's in there, but I haven't really done anything too crazy with it yet. It just makes token copies of other stuff. Goblin Charbelcher, basically another meme card, which has a whole wall of text. I can't really get to zoom in. It says it where, yeah, you reveal. Just look it up if you really want to see the exact Oracle text. But yeah, basically the gist is you reveal cards from the top of your deck and then deal damage equal to the amount that you reveal. Eldest Reborn, very, very good saga. Has like 3 pretty good effects. And then I run a complete set of Guild Gates, which that's why I said at the beginning of the video this deck is extremely slow, because a very good chunk of my mana base is just Guild Gates. And then Maze's End, which this deck isn't really built around Maze's End that much. I kind of just have it in here, but sometimes if the game is just absurdly long and grindy and nobody's blown up any of my lands, I can just kind of accidentally win off of this. And next up, what I have for Planeswalkers is Ral Zarek, the original one. So, well, I mean, like, not the original Planeswalker, the original version of Ral. So I mostly just use his +1 ability to just untap Jegantha a bunch to get a bunch of mana. His -2 is solid removal, and then his ultimate is pretty absurd ultimate. And then Aminatu, who is not actually in the command zone instead of this deck. No, she's a pretty good commander. I cannot get this to zoom. Basically, the gist is +1, you draw a card, then you put one on top of your deck, so that lines up stuff to easily get cheated into play with Golos. The -1 allows me to blink something, and then, oh, there, finally zoomed in. And then the ultimate is really useless unless I'm like losing or something, so I never use it. Then Ashiok, Sculptor of Fears, which this version of them is Planeswalker deck card. As you can see, it's 6 mana. It's pretty bad, but mostly just I wanted to give them a home, because Planeswalkers, even though they're really bad, they need a home. And then last of all is my mana base, a handful of snow-covered basics, just so that I can, handful of cards that, actually no, I cut Cultivate from this, yeah, so these are basically just in there for the one enchantment that needs snowlands. Then I have a handful of multicolored lands that enter untapped. So Shivan Reef, and then an incomplete set of Shocklands, since I don't want to spend dozens of dollars just on lands. Yeah, so I have Temple Garden, Godless Shrine, and Hallowed Fountain. And then Exotic Orchard, very, very underrated card. It's basically just a 5-color land if everybody else at the table is playing multicolored decks. Command Tower, a staple. Plaza of Harmony, which is basically a 5-color land once I have enough gates out, since it taps for the color that any of your other gates have. Lotus Field, which is just a very solid land. And then the complete set of Tron, which is basically just completely negates commander tax, since in total these I'll just tap for 7 mana, then totally tap for 7 mana, yeah, so basically just set for my colorless mana needs for the rest of the game. And then Field of the Dead, another kind of boogeyman card, like Uro or Siege Rhino. creates, since like I only have like 2 lands with the same name in this deck, this just creates a ton of zombie tokens. And then last but not least, I forgot to name Empty the Warrens is one of the ways that I can win. Just with a bunch of goblin tokens. Has Storm. Pretty good stuff. Yeah, so this has been 16-bit kid with my fairly mediocre Golos with Jegantha as the companion. This is my commander deck. And it's pretty decent. Don't usually do anything before turn 5, but it's a pretty fun deck to play. So this is 16-bit kid signing out.